I owned a bar for 30 years, loved it, a lot of work. I tell people that the people that came into my bar and worked in my bar and drank in my bar and ate in my bar had more integrity, more honesty, and more ethics than many of the people that I've met in politics. How do you know a politician is lying? Their lips are moving. Then it came 2006, and I'd had it. I had these 3 beautiful children that I had worked so hard to raise. I sent them all, they're older now, I sent them all off to college. They came back just as conservative as when I sent them off. Love that. My oldest daughter is getting married next October. Her fiance, awesome conservative. They know better than to bring a Democrat home. I will never, ever, ever vote for a Democrat again. Ever, ever. They lie to me. The Republicans lie to me too. So in 2006, I decided somebody has to run against Tim Pawlenty. They have to, because we deserve better. Our state was going to hell in a handbasket. Okay, it cost Tim Pawlenty $350,000 to crush me like a bug in that primary, but I hold my head high. You know what? Because someone had to stand up. The things that I was trying to stop back then, whether it was environmental rules, whether it was regulations, whether it was the size, the scope, the expense of government, whether it was government intrusion, whether it was light rail transit, whether you name it, they're all things we're fighting about now. The same things. And this guy tried to tell us he was a conservative and he was looking out for us. No, he wasn't. We deserve better and we have to demand better. Want to know one of my favorite stories? Okay, so after he crushed me like a bug, I got to go over to the governor's mansion and have lunch. Awesome. They got their own personal chef over there and everything. Best meal I've ever had. And it was just Tim Pawlenty and I. And by the way, when I told him, you know, Tim, nobody burns food for fuel. It was like this light bulb went off in his head, but he still passed more renewable energy standards, which is why our energy costs are 30% higher. But as I was driving into the governor's mansion, you have to have, the gate opens up and there's a highway patrol guy there who checks your ID to make sure who you say you are. And you get checked and then you go in. So I pull up, the state patrol guy, I've got my driver's license hanging out my window, you know, and he goes, "I know who you are, Sue. I voted for you." Awesome is that? I did not tell that to Tim when we had lunch. And you know what? Tim Pawlenty's a nice guy. I think Tim Pawlenty did the best that he could do. But we deserve better. We deserve a lot better. Look at who's coming to that governor's thing there. We deserve better. There's one name on there and one name only that I will be coloring my circle in for. By the way, there's still 2 more names that'll be added on there most likely, but probably not before that starts. The only guy I'm voting for is Dave Thompson. You know what? Yeah, he's a great guy. He is a bold leader. No more white bread, no more milquetoast, no more politicians that lie to us. No more. We need to have bold leaders who are going to turn this Titanic around. Enough is enough is enough. You're going to hear one of these candidates, stand up and talk about what a great job he did when he was the majority leader. Yeah, you lost the majority, loser. Is that the kind of guy we want in the governor's chair? And then he's going to tell you about this great bill that, oh, if only we could have gotten it passed, where it would have reduced the state workforce by 12 or whatever percentage points. You want to hear the rest of that story? If we would have just left it alone and did nothing, we would have lowered the state employee workforce 16%. So how do you tell a politician is lying? Their lips are moving. They try to tell you about this wonderful thing that they're doing, and in reality, they're not. Who knows who Ted Cruz is? Awesome! You want to talk about a bold leader? 21 hours, 77,000 words. And what is the rhino Republican establishment doing? Going after him. He took the fight. He took the fight. Think back to 2008, 2009, 2010. All of our Republican leaders told us they were going to fight for us. They were going to fight so hard for us. They were going to get rid of Obamacare. It was going to be gone. They were going to repeal it. They were going to stop it. They were going to defund it. They were going to do everything for it. What are they doing for us now? Nothing. Bold leadership. Bold leadership is the only thing that's going to save us. The only thing. Every place that I go, I try to take advantage of what I call teachable moments. So, I'm at Papa Murphy's, picking up a pizza with my son. We're waiting for our pizza, and we see liter bottles of Dr. Pepper. I love Dr. Pepper. And we don't drink pop at our house. So sometimes you just gotta have pop, and they have Dr. Pepper for $1. I'm like, oh, let's get some. So I pick up the liter, bring it up to the kid making our pizza. I go, you know, if we lived in New York, the mayor wouldn't let you sell this. And the kid looks at me and he goes, that nanny state. 16-year-old kid. And the other two 16-year-old, okay, they looked about 12, really, but that's because I'm getting a little older, I think. The other two go, nanny state, what's that? He goes, let me tell you about this. How much better is it for him to tell those two than for me to tell those two? Awesome, isn't it? Our kids and our grandkids are getting their news from Jon Stewart. Does everyone know who Kim Kardashian is? Well, of course we do. I never want to hear about her again. Do you know who Yvonne Solon-Pretner is? Oh, she's our lieutenant governor. We should all know who she is. Wait a minute, you guys aren't getting your news from Jon Stewart, are you? Okay, just checking. But that's the world that we live in. And how uninformed people are, and there's always a chance to teach them something. So I'm at Cub, and I was having a party, and I had a huge grocery cart, and the New Brighton chief of police, or chief of public safety, comes in, and he just has 2 bags of candy. And I say, oh, Paul, go on, you can go in front of me. I got this giant cart. And he goes, oh, no, Sue. I go, are you nuts? I have this giant cart. You have 2 bags of candy. Go. He's like, oh, thank you so much. The cashier says to me, oh, I want to be a cop when I grow up. I go, you know what? You want to be a cop just like him. And I talk really loud in the grocery store, or the pizza place, or Target, or the gas station, or wherever. And I go, that's the director of public safety. He makes over $100,000 a year. It's an election year in New Brighton, people. And they're all like, $100,000 a year? I go, yeah, did you know we have 12 people in our city that make over $100,000? And all of a sudden you have people at the grocery store talking about how much money the New Brighton the New Brighton workers are making. Love it. More fun in the gas station. They buy a pack of cigarettes, how much? I'm always in the back of the line. I go, those damn Democrats, I'll never vote for another one of them. And the people in the gas station, they know me because I always do this, you know, and they just egg me on. Always a teachable moment everywhere you go. Local politics are so important. Do you guys have a mayor's race or a city council race this year? School board? Well, did we throw the bums out and put some good ones in?
No, in fact, we showed up to vote at 5 p.m. and only 75 people had voted up to that time.
Oh my gosh.
Just in our 5th ward. 75 people.
A calling tree could help with that. Okay, folks, we have to start with these local elections. We have to. It's whether it's school boards, mayors, city councils, you have to. That's where you do the phone calls. That's where you do. Have you ever heard of R.T. Ryback? Yeah. He's the mayor of Minneapolis, thankfully for not much longer. 35 people are running against him. Anyway, well, he's not running again, so but 35 candidates. I think it'll be next year before we figure out who won, because it's a ranked choice voting. It'll be great fun. R.T. Ryback, R.T., when I owned my bar in Minneapolis, there were only 2 bar owners who were banned from his office. Guess who was one of them? Me! And I wear that as a badge of honor too. Everywhere is a teachable moment. You know, it's so easy to want to get in, to want to fight about the things at the federal level, to want to talk about Ted Cruz, to want to talk about Obamacare, to want to talk about the debt ceiling, to want to talk about Dodd-Frank, to want any of these different issues. But you know what? You make the biggest difference at home. You make the biggest difference at your local levels. And the Democrats were really smart when they took over the local levels, because then they use that for their bench, so their bench can start moving up to statewide races and ultimately federal races. I think back in 2004, 5, 6, 7, thanks to people like Tim Pawlenty, thanks to the people like Norm Coleman, squishy, white bread rhinos, and you know what? I'll throw Ron Carey in there, and I'll throw Michael Broadcorb in there, and I'll throw Tony Sutton in there. I'll throw them all under the bus. I think they helped destroy the Republican brand. And it's our job to fix it. We have to fix it. I think because they crushed down good candidates in so many different areas, not just me, because my advice is to you, don't start out running for governor. Start out a little bit lower on that food chain, definitely. They crushed down so many good people, so many people who could have made a difference, that it hurt us. It destroyed our brand. And I think people like John McCain now, who's calling Ted Cruz names, or Lindsey Graham, people like that, they're hurting the Republican brand even more. And of course, they don't have one nice thing to say about the Tea Party people. They don't have one nice thing. They all claim to be conservatives, but they aren't. They aren't. And we have to start calling them on it, and we have to start throwing them out. I want you to think back to 2008. Norm Coleman. Think about that. Mark Ritchie told me we had 25,000 more ballots than registered voters. 25,000 more ballots than registered voters. How does that happen? They cheat. In last summer, I ran for Ramsey County Commissioner. In one particular precinct that I ran in, Little Canada won, it leaned Democrat 17 percentage points. So I door knocked, and I'm like, whoa, this just doesn't feel like a district that leans Democrats 17%. So I called the Republican Senate candidate, and I called the Republican House candidate, and I said, hey, April, hey, Ken, does that feel 17% Democrat to you? And they said no. And I said, I'll tell you what, let's each door knock it again. Let's put an election judge in there, and let's put a poll watcher in there. I won the precinct. April King took 48%, and Ken Rubenzer took 46%. We've got to have people in these election judge absentee ballot board seats paying attention to what's going on. Olmsted County is one of the areas where there are more ballots than registered voters. St. Louis County, who did I see here from Duluth? St. Louis County is where Mark Ritchie said the big bulk of them come from, and of course Hennepin and Ramsey. We've got to change this. Okay, let's think about this past legislative session. Mark Dayton. I don't believe Mark Dayton is going to run. I think he's going to be a one-term governor, and he's going to step down. I think we will see someone like R.T. Ryback or someone like Tom Bach up from the Iron Range. He's the majority leader in the Senate. I think we will see someone like that run. I also think we might see Amy Klobuchar run to set herself up for a presidential run. So we're gonna see some really interesting things coming. This next election, everybody thinks it's gonna be Mark Dayton. Mark my words, it's not. He's not healthy. Has anybody seen him recently? He's not healthy. He is not healthy. There is something physically wrong with him. Mentally wrong with him. There are rumors on the street is that he's drinking again. Rumors are on the street that because he was drinking or his meds or whatever it was, he fell and hurt his hip, and he was down here for something with his back, and you know, who knows what any of those things are true. But I'll tell you, and then him coming out and saying he might have a different running mate. I think that's just another indication that he's not going to run a second term. But whatever, all the better. Bring it on. Go Dave Thompson. Did I say that? Yeah, good. Go Dave Thompson. Again, bold leadership is what we need. Now, well, and Tom Emmer, I love Tom Emmer up in the 6th Congressional District. You know why? bold leader. Not afraid to say what he means and mean what he says. He can defend his conservative principles. Totally defend them. And that's what we need. No more, I'm not going to talk about it. No more of any of it. Okay, 2013 legislative session, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The only good thing that happened during the last legislative session, it ended. That was it. They did so much damage, and I actually brought along a list of some of the damage that they did, which is horrendous. And there's going to be a lot more coming up this next legislative session. We'll see a gas tax, we'll see a transit tax, we'll see an alcohol tax, we'll see a minimum wage increase, we'll see a bullying bill. There's a lot of bad stuff left to do. You know, the Democrats control everything. They control every constitutional office, and they control the legislature, the Senate and the House. Only the House is up for re-election now. We have to turn that around. We have to turn that around. And when I say we have to turn it around, I don't mean turn it around like we did in Washington, D.C. We have these Republicans in the House who are supposed to be guarding the hen house. Are you kidding me? They're eating us up, just like the Democrats. How do you tell a politician is lying? Their lips are moving. You know, it gets so confusing whether you're talking about the vote on cloture, the vote on repealing Obamacare, the vote on defunding Obamacare. All you need to know is they're taking enough votes to cover their ass. That's all they're doing. Every one of them is going to be able to go back home and say, I voted exactly the way my constituents wanted me to vote. And it's disgusting. And it's appalling. When you look at the right side of the aisle, they promised us. They promised us when they were running for re-election. They promised us when they had their town halls. They promised us in their fundraising letters and any other correspondence that we had. They promised us they'd repeal Obamacare. How's that working out? They're making fun of the one guy who stood up for 21 hours telling us all the things that's wrong with Obamacare. Do you remember when Obamacare was passed? Straight party line vote. Not one Republican voted for it. They used on Christmas Eve. They used Merry Christmas, huh? They used every trick and every procedural maneuver, every promise or buyout that they could use to get that through. The Democrats know it's not going to work. If there isn't a hill to die on, it'd have to be Obamacare. It would have to be. Is everything we on the right side of the aisle hate about government. Government intrusion, government scope, government expense, you name it. It's everything. But where are our bold leaders? Oh, let's see. John McCain was trying to get Ted Cruz off that floor, wasn't he? Yeah, he was. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I'll tell you about a few of the other things that happened this past legislative session. Mark Dayton has called next legislative session the unsession. Now, when they had the special session, they should have fixed all the mistakes that they made the last legislative session. They didn't. So they will have to address some of these mistakes. Of course, they will make some more mistakes. I want to call this next legislative session the undo legislative session, because it's time to undo most of the changes that they made. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The 2013, we saw, they raised taxes $2.1 billion. They raised fees another $600 million. They gave education over $1 billion. They promised with pre-K and all the extra funding, $500 million for K through 12, that all of our kids would graduate. But they reduced the grad standards, and they reduced the basic skills test. And most important, tell all your friends and neighbors, they never paid back the school shift. Never. What was the #1 campaign promise? What was the #1 attack on Republicans? They didn't pay back the school shift. Well, neither did the Democrats. And now, because of all the taxes that the Democrats raised, the revenue projections are coming in short. What are we, almost $50 million short already? Yeah. So the education also saw the DREAM Act. They also saw this really neat little scam where they gave higher education $300 million and they promised to freeze tuition for incoming freshmen. You know what the dirty little secret there is? They raised tuition for everyone else, including law students. They raised the cost of their fees. They raised the cost of housing, and they raised the cost on the graduate students. And so they froze the tuition rates for 2 years. They did nothing to rein in spending. Nothing. And but hey, everybody's gonna get a diploma. Everybody's gonna graduate. Awesome. And we have the DREAM Act too. So illegal aliens can go to college and pay in-state tuition as well. It's crazy. The cigarette tax was probably one of the biggest complaints. And everybody says, oh, Sue, I don't care if they tax the smokers. I don't smoke. Yes, you do care. You do care. You care about every tax they increase. And why? Because the money that smoker is paying to the government, who will throw down the rat hole on God knows whatever else they want to spend it on, it's money they're not going to spend in your hardware store, or your flower shop, or saving for retirement, or going to get education, or putting a roof over your head, or buying food. No, it's our money, and we deserve to keep it. So this year, when you see the gas tax, when you see the minimum wage increase, when you see the alcohol tax, when you see the transit tax, oh, you guys are going to get so screwed down here. Oh my gosh. That Destination Medical Center? Okay, we know governments should not be building stadiums. We know that. Destination Medical Center is the second generation of building stadiums. Only Rochester was the big winner. They carved out a special little definition for the Mayo Clinic, saying that it had to be a business over 30,000 employees. Who's the only business that has over there? That'd be the Mayo Clinic. But don't worry, because you know what? Some other hospital's going to come along. It'll be Hennepin County Medical Center, it'll be St. Luke's up in Duluth, or it'll be, I don't care, pick any one of them. And they'll just adjust that number, and we'll be doing this for a whole bunch of cities. And I heard your city council was going to lower your property taxes. You're not following for that, are you? Because remember, your taxes are the city, the school, and the county. And you might see one of them lower it, but no, they're going to keep going up, and they're going to go up and up and up. And then on top of that, you guys got a new sales tax, didn't you? 1% on everything you buy. So who's going shopping for the big stuff outside Olmsted County? Yeah, of course you are. Why would you spend money in Olmsted County if you didn't have to? Non-taxable items is one thing. I go to Anoka County. I saved almost $1,000 one year by buying my big stuff in Anoka County versus Ramsey County. I gotta buy a car. Why would I want to buy it in Ramsey County or Olmsted? Think about it. It's crazy. You guys, the Destination Medical Center should really trouble you. The first version of the bill appoints this board. Mayor R.T. Ryback from Minneapolis is on that board too. So are a bunch of other interesting people. By the way, I not only applied to be on the board for the Mayo Clinic group, I also applied for the MNsure board, and I applied for a Met Council opening, and it was right after that I got the audit letter from the Department of Revenue. And funny, Mark Dayton hasn't called me yet to tell me that he picked me for any of these things. But I hope you go back and read the first bill that was put together for Destination Medical Center. It said that your tax dollars could be used for eminent domain. So if you have property in Olmsted County and they want it, they can just take your land. They can just take it, just because they want to and because they can. It's crazy. They can use your money to build parks. They can use your money to build a train. They can use your money to build a waterfall. That was actually in the language. They can use your money to build a 4-star hotel, a 4-star restaurant. They can use your money for anything they want. And that board decides, not you guys. It's not the way it should be. You talk about the size, scope, and expense of government. It's crazy. It's out of control. And I don't know how you guys stop that, but you're getting a train. on top of that? A train. I know you're gonna get a train. In fact, you guys are one of the big recipients of it. And here's the thing. Do you know how much it costs to operate the Hiawatha line? $20 million a year. So not only do we have to pay off building the damn train, but we have to pay $20 million a year operating it. And by the way, that Hiawatha line has killed more people than secondhand smoke. Yes, it has. Five. Your train though, when you have your operating costs for your train, that's money that won't be spent on public safety. It won't be spent on the things that government is supposed to do, a real safety net for people who need it. You guys, you gotta do something. And you know what the key is for you guys? It's the mayor of Rochester. So somebody better start doing what you need to do to get to be the mayor of Rochester. Oh, don't laugh, I mean it. It's our only hope. Well, or you could elect Dave Thompson. There were a lot of bad things that happened in the 2013 legislative session. I hope you will listen to my podcast or listen to my radio show. For football now, some of the shows are a little bit shorter, but I cover all of this stuff. I cover stuff that's happening in Duluth. I cover stuff that's happening in Rochester. I cover stuff that's happening in the metro area. Everything that happens to me is important, whether it's at a local level or whether it's a federal level. And there's one thing I want to tell you. When I was at the state fair this year, our #1 selling t-shirt was the NSA t-shirt, now spying on Americans. And then it said nasty stuff underneath it, but whatever. Do you know who was buying it? The kids. They're going to be our saving grace, you know. They're going to be our saving grace. They are going to get things under control. They're going to elect bold leaders. They are going to be those bold leaders. And they are going to say, you know what? We're not going to allow the politicians to get away with this anymore. We are going to take our country back. We are going to rein things in. We are going to have the proper role of government. And I'm going to do everything I can to help them now and in the future. We owe it to them. They are our future. On that note, let's take some questions. Yes.
You said it's the young ones that will be helping take it back, but I think that's how Obama got elected. When he won on all those talk late night, I thought
They got
it
suckered.
wasn't presidential. I thought, right, he's not going to get elected. It was all the young people.
But
It's cool. I mean,
no, we have 300 million people in this country. 300 million people. And not all of them saw President Obama on TV. And Deb was saying that the young people saw President Obama on TV. You know what the young people realize now? They got suckered. They got suckered by a slick-talking, smooth social media hipster. And they don't like it. They don't like it one single bit. And they don't like the government spying on them. They don't want them reading their emails, if they still use email. They don't want them following them on Twitter or following them, and they don't use Facebook anymore either, but whatever. You know, they expect government to be there to help them in some cases, but not all cases. And the young people, they didn't like being suckered. And that applied to a lot of older people too. I had friends of mine who said to me, yeah, I voted for him. I believed his promises. But now we know. Now we know. We've seen, the debt ceiling's been raised 7 times since he's been president. The debt's $17 trillion. Look at our kids. Our kids they're paying into Social Security that they're never gonna see a dime of. They're buying health insurance they don't want or need. And now they're stuck with a $17 trillion debt. How would you like to be a kid? Wouldn't you be mad? I'd be mad. And they are. More and more of them are waking up too. But I think the biggest thing about it too, they don't like being spied on. And they didn't like being suckered. They believed him. They believed him. But now they learned, how do you know a politician is lying? His lips are moving. Or her lips, yeah.
As being the Destination Medical Center is already in the works and it's
Yeah.
got all its boards and everything, what can a governor do if, in the process of being a governor, he can't be funded, he can't break it up because it's already law. It's already established. So how is a governor going to work or help with Destination Medical Center?
The question is, how is a governor going to help with Destination Medical Center? Before I answer that question, she wanted to know if when I was a politician, did I lie? No, I didn't. I thought I showed amazing restraint. I only told 2 people to bite me, and I only told 1 person that they were too stupid to vote for me, they could only vote for the other person. But when they asked me, what are you gonna do for me? I'd look them square in the eye and say, not one damn thing. I'm gonna make sure you can live your life the way you wanna live your life. No, I didn't lie. And they'd say, where do you stand on the marriage amendment? Because that was a big thing. And I'd say, I believe marriage is between a man and a woman. And they'd be like, you're not my candidate. And I'm like, oh, I'm not entitled to my opinion? Only your opinion? And so, we would go back and forth. I was running for Ramsey County Commissioner. It wasn't like, that was not really my issue. But even if somebody brought it up, I would talk about anything. I would talk about anything. And everything, and yeah, so I did not lie to them. Okay.
Well, I used to listen to you on the radio and I lost you, so how do I get you on the radio?
You can hear me on your cell phone, you can hear me on your computer, or you can hear me on AM 1130.
Yeah, but I can't get it on my radio I can get it in my car.
Huh.
It breaks up here.
Yeah, as soon as you get
Tell them to boost the power.
Oh, I've tried telling them to boost the power. Trust me, I've tried and tried and tried. I don't think they're going to. They promised us for a long time they would. They're not. They make more money off of sports. It's that simple. But you can listen on the computer.
Well, I don't have a computer, but I do have a cell phone, so how would I do that?
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
I think iHeartRadio is the best way too. You can download the app and then you can just listen to it right on your, or you can go on the computer and listen to it on there too. So there it is. She can show anyone how to do it if you need to know. Okay, Destination Medical Center. Destination Medical Center is still, yes, the bill is in law, but the Mayo Clinic has to do a lot of things before they start getting all that money. Now, what you have to watch, what I think the most important thing to watch is the incoming revenues, which by the way is coming out of the general fund. Somebody should have sued over this law. Almost every law we passed this year, someone should have sued on. Because I think it's unconstitutional because the money comes out of the general fund and without even legislative authority. So I think there could be something there too. But a governor is going to be the one that's going to oversee that. And a governor is going to be none of that money should come out until the Mayo Clinic meets their half of the decision. So if all of a sudden you start seeing properties being taken up by eminent domain, or tracks being laid for light rail transit, or a new park, or a new strip mall that's going to have a fancy schmancy restaurant in it, or something like that, that's where you need, with Freedom of Information Act, that's where you start filing those Freedom of Information. You find out where this money is coming from, who it's going to, and that's where a governor will be able to stick their paws right in there and say, whoa, 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 whoa. The Mayo Clinic, that's hundreds of millions of dollars. That's your tax dollars. Well, state tax dollars, but overseen through that board. Another reason you have to have, here, let me tell you this. When Tim Pawlenty was governor, he had an opportunity to get rid of the Met Council. Does everybody know what the Met Council is? The Met Council is a nightmare. It's a nightmare regulatory agency. This year, the legislature gave the Met Council even more taxing authority to an unelected board that's appointed by the governor. So when Tim Pawlenty, of course, Mark Dayton appointed a bunch of socialists. What do you expect? Well, Tim Pawlenty had it was his turn to appoint the Met Council. He had a majority that he could have gotten rid of the Met Council. You know what they said? Oh, we'll use it for our good things. Yeah? Well, we ended up with the Central Corridor. We ended up, Absolutely ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And again, that's what I mean with bold leadership. Somebody who was gonna say, now's the time to get rid of this Met Council. Met Council was put together to regulate regional projects in the metro area, buses and flushes. That's what they were supposed to do, wastewater treatment. And now, I mean, cities, they make the lives miserable for cities and counties, and their regulatory authority is unbelievable. But basically, your Destination Medical Center Board is a Met Council, and they're gonna be making these decisions, and again, it's an appointed board. It's crazy.
Have you heard about the EDA, Economic Development Advisory Board, that's going to be advising DMC?
Yeah.
And they're going to be male. I heard the male gal talk this week, and she said, and that's going to be male. And she says, we'll be like the staff, putting it all together for the DMC.
And they're not looking out for us. They're not looking out for us. Nobody. The bureaucrats aren't looking out for us. They're looking out to cover their job. And that's why it has to be our job to pay attention to them, to find out what's going on. And, well, your post bulletin is kind of interesting. I'm happy to hear that you guys have written some letters to the editor, because that's the only way they're going to hear a conservative message is if you guys are writing letters to the editor. So get busy. Who's writing them this week? I don't see any hands. That's your job after the meeting's over. Find 5 people to write letters to the editor to the Rochester Post Bulletin, but they have they provide cover for the bureaucrats, but they do by accident sometimes tell the truth. Same with NPR. You just have to read to the last paragraph. If you read to the last paragraph, that's usually where you get the number, the dirt, or the whatever. Or follow me on Facebook, because I'm prolific. And I post a lot of Rochester Post Bulletin stories, and NPR, because they are very informative. They really are. Watch for a gas tax. You guys should be mad about that. We're going to get a gas tax, transit tax. We're going to see an alcohol tax, that bullying bill. Hey, Marjorie's coming in next month. Don't miss that. I've heard her speak. She testified before the legislature, and she testified on the lawsuit. Common Core, scary, scary, bad, bad, bad news. Minnesota, gung-ho with Common Core. You have kids, you have grandkids, you have neighbors with kids, you bring them next week and hear what Marjorie has to say. You'll be horrified, horrified. And Marjorie's my friend, so be nice to her. And then you should have Christy Rosenquist come over and talk about how to stop a wind turbine farm and how to talk about some other environmental issues like Elk Run. You should have Kim Crockett down to talk about pensions. Oh, I know, I saw your eyes glaze over. Don't worry, she'll make it good. You should have Lee McGrath down to talk about Institute for Justice. They fight government. They've got some great cases, one in Red Wing about illegal search and seizure. They used housing inspectors to go in under the guise of inspections, and then they'd find pot or whatever, and Institute for Justice sued him. It was great. They sued Lee McGrath, Institute for Justice. I mean, there's so many great people. Bill Glon's another one you ought to have. Environmental stuff, complete streets. Educate yourself on complete streets. Oh my gosh, you're going to get that in Rochester, that your board will jump all over that one. Making everything pedestrian friendly. We hate cars, pedestrian friendly, bike friendly, and we wonder why pedestrian and bike accidents keep going up and up and up and up and up. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. Yeah.
What's your reason, or why do you think the Republicans in the Fed are going along with Obamacare? I mean, I'm assuming they have some reason that, you know, may be screwed up, but I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think, well, first of all, I think they're spineless wusses. I think they don't have a backbone. I think all they care about is their political power. They've been there so long, they forgot they're representing us, and they just want to keep their political power. That said, I think, well, money too, yeah. That said, I think they're awfully worried about how Republicans are always blamed, And if there's a government shutdown, or if the, whatever happens, the Republicans are gonna get blamed. Well, they're already getting blamed for everything. What difference does it make? Oh, I sounded like Hillary there. Oh my God, that was terrifying. Benghazi still makes me mad too, by the way. I want to know where President Obama was, and I want to know who gave the stand down order. And I haven't forgotten the NSA, I haven't forgotten PRISM, I haven't forgotten the IRS. I can multitask, unlike the national Republicans, who apparently can only tackle one battle at a time, and they tackle that one poorly. I think they chose the debt ceiling battle over the Obamacare battle, and I think they're wrong. Both the Obamacare battle and the debt ceiling battle have about a 60% approval rate. Meaning they support the repeal of Obamacare, or they don't want to implement Obamacare, and they want to get the spending under control. About 60% of the people believe that. So it's a winning argument. And I think they should be multitasking. I think they should be going for broke. We've got to see bold leadership. We're gonna end up in the same boat that we're in right now. You think about Lindsey Graham and John McCain, they've been more of a problem than, what the heck, they go after Ted Cruz? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Throw their sorry butts out of there. Oh, well, and Al Franken too. Oh man, and I will repeat that again, Al Franken, 25,000 more ballots than registered voters. And by the way, there were more, that was 2008. There were more in 2010 and more in 2012. And Mark Ritchie and the Democrats who control every constitutional office, they're doing nothing to fix it, nothing. So unless we have bold leadership, it's going to be the exact same thing over and over and over again. I do think we're in a position now, or we could be, but you can always count on the Republicans to screw it up. You can always count on that. I do think we're in a position where we could delay the individual mandate for a year, and I think that would be a win. I think that would be a win most of us could live with, along with some reduced spending. But you just always have to count on them to screw it up, because they do.
What do you think of the Senate?
Turn the phone off over there.
Yeah,
You're being extremely rude.
It's not my phone, I'm trying to turn on someone else's phone.
Turn it off.
Just turn it off.
Press the top button.
Talking no matter what.
Should be one on the side of it. The Senate candidates, I don't think too much of any of them. I think we might still see someone else jump into that race. What do we have, 4 in the Senate race now? We have Jim Abler, who I've never voted for, he's a Democrat. Mike McFadden, he's raised $750,000. I mean, that's impressive. I've never met the guy, I don't know anything about him. We just had the brand new guy jump in from St. Louis County.
Chris Dahlberg.
What's his name?
Chris Dahlberg.
Chris Dahlberg, thank you. He's a county commissioner for St. Louis County. I met him. He seemed very nice. And you know what? He told me he was a conservative. Well, everybody tells me that. So I have to go, I took his business card and I said I would call him because I'm very interested in talking to him and hear what he seemed very pleasant. And again, I haven't met Mike McFadden and wasn't there one? Oh, Julianne Ortman. Well, yeah, there's Julianne. On my show, I told Julianne, I said something mean about Julianne on my show, and she called me up and she yelled at me. And I said, Julianne, you're a squish. You don't have a very good voting record. And she goes, I'll come on your show and I'll defend that record. And I'm like, awesome, let's go. So she comes in and she brought her husband. And first time I ever met him, he was very nice too. And so I go, okay, we did a segment and we talked, went back and forth, talked about current legislation, and as we went to the break, I said, up next, Julianne's here to defend her record. And, we'll take a break, we'll be right back. And so during the break, I said, Julianne, I'm giving you an out. We don't have to do this if you want. You have a lousy record, you're not a conservative, and she's like, no, I'm ready. And so I started reading down her list. She's like, ooh, forgot about that vote. Oh yeah, forgot about that vote. I'm like, do you want to keep going? And she's like, yeah. And I ate her up. I mean, she could say nothing. And then somebody called in, I have no idea who it was, but I know it was someone from her district, and just ripped her apart. She has not come on my show since. But you know what? Don't call yourself a conservative if you're not. And it may be that she's the strongest candidate, and yeah, they're better. She's better than Al Franken, but don't you want to see some bold leaders that you can actually trust? That you can trust? Wouldn't that be nice? I can count on one hand the number of politicians that I trust. One hand. How sad is that? I mean, at least with the Democrats, they tell you they're going to rob you blind. They tell you. They're at least honest about it. Our side promises one thing and does something different, and then has the audacity to come back at you and tell you what a conservative they are. By the way, I'm a board member for an organization called Minnesota LEA, Legislative Evaluation Assembly. We do a scorecard on the legislature. We're almost done with last year's. And we score it on constitutionality. So, and we've been in existence since the 1970s. I've only been on the board for, I don't know, 5 or 10 years. 10 maybe. But you can actually go to mnlea.org and you can look up people's voting records. And a lot of the people, especially our governor's candidates, have a record. Check out their record, and I think you'll find out they're not nearly as conservative as they tell you they are. Except for Dave Thompson, because he is a conservative. Can you tell I like him? Can you tell he's my favorite candidate?
Which candidate supported right to work? That's running for governor?
Dave Thompson. That's right. Yeah, which one was the majority leader and did nothing with right to work? Oh, that was Kurt Zellers. Yeah, and who's the other one? Oh yeah, Scott Honor. I don't even think he knows what right to work is. And Jeff Johnson will tell you he knows what right to work is. But you know what made me mad about Jeff Johnson? 2 things. One, when gay marriage passed this year, he wouldn't even weigh in on it. Why? Why? You know what, the Democrats, I didn't expect them to come in and pass gay marriage. Did you?
No.
No, nobody did. That's not what they said when they were trying to stop the constitutional amendment. Not at all. Well, wouldn't you expect our governor candidates to weigh in on marriage of all things? I would. I think the only one that did was Dave Thompson. And I don't care, you don't have to agree with him or not agree with him, whatever. At least he has the backbone to answer you and tell you where he stands. Jeff Johnson, I forgot I was getting sidetracked there. Jeff Johnson, one more second. Jeff Johnson had a bill when he was in the Minnesota House of Representatives. That's why I told you about the LEA. He had a bill where he wanted to put ratings on video games so that children couldn't buy them. And I said, hey Jeff, you know that every state that passed this rating has been sued by the video game industry, and guess who won in every lawsuit? Well, it wasn't the state. And Jeff said to me, oh Sue, I'm a lawyer. I can write this so tightly that they won't win this lawsuit. Guess who won the lawsuit? The video games. So, there you go. Okay, one more?
So, tell me about what we can do about this voter integrity, because you're always talking about how many ballots for this candidate or that candidate. When we looked at the polls about voter ID prior to the last election, everybody was in favor of it, and then all of a sudden, boom, they defeated it.
$20 million. $20 million will do that. I keep telling everyone I want to win the lottery so that I can buy myself a new governor and a new legislature. Yeah, $20 million. It was a PR campaign like I've never seen before in my life, and it worked. It worked. You know who you have to have Dan McGrath down. He will talk election integrity, and he'll give you so many great ideas. How many are election judges? Oh, awesome. Me too. New Brighton, Precinct 4, well-oiled machine. Machine. But we also need absentee ballot board election. If you're an election judge, in many cases you are an absentee ballot board judge too. We also need poll watchers. If you're an election judge, that's a long day. I mean, for us, it's 6 in the morning till 10 at night. Or maybe you only work half a day, whatever it is. But poll watchers, you can go in for a couple hours or 4 hours, and you just sit there and you track things. You have go to a little class, you take a little sheet of paper with you. There are incident reports that you can fill out. But we should have people there everywhere. But Dan McGrath is the guy at Minnesota.
I've spoken to him several times.
Yeah, Dan is like a genius on all of that. Yeah.
Two things. The NSA, it is standard knowledge in Washington that stands for no such agency. My brother did some work for them when he was in the Air Force. So I have inside information. He got a beautiful medal and a certificate signed by President Kennedy. But it was not happy for him. The next thing, I was assistant election judge in the last election. I do not want to be on the election board anymore.
Why?
We don't need voter ID. I witnessed enough fraud, absolute fraud,
I know,
and I could do nothing about it.
I know,
I was sick for 2 days.
I know.
It bothered me then.
Did you fill out an incident report? Gotta fill out the incident reports, people. Gotta. Because they track those. No, I know. We have to have photo ID.
The system is so rigged and so corrupt. And people don't realize it.
I know, they aren't.
If you can't win the election, you steal it.
Right.
Outright.
And you know what? With bold leadership, with bold leaders who can articulate principles, who can tell you why we believe what we believe, who believe in fiscal responsibility and personal responsibility, life, liberty, property, all of that, you know what? Well, they'll win by a landslide. We won't have to worry about the cheating. But they've got to be able to articulate it, and your average candidate can't. Which is why the 2 radio talk show hosts are my favorite, Tom Emmer and Dave Thompson. Because they argue and defend and fight over principles for years. And they believe them. Because you know what? It's easy to talk, but do they walk the walk? Yeah, they do.
What happened to Bob Davis?
Bob Davis got fired. It's all about money. It's all about money. It's always all about money. And there'll be more people fired, but not me. Because I asked him at the state fair, I asked our big boss, I'm really worried, am I going to get fired in the next batch? And he goes, no, you're not getting fired. And I'm like, phew. So at least I'm here till the end of the year. But there are more coming.
Do you trust him?
I do. I think he'd tell me the truth. Or I think he would find a way. He flat out said, no, Sue, you're not getting fired. He would find a different way to say it if I was getting fired. But I think he'd tell me. Yeah.
Does that mean because your ratings are high or what?
No, they don't care about Saturdays. I can pretty much say or do anything I want. I've only almost gotten fired twice. Only once or twice did they tell me specifically not to talk about something. Well, of course I had to talk about it. It used to be that the old program director, it used to be when, you could always tell when one of the talk show hosts was mad at him because he didn't like you to talk about abortion. And so I'd turn on the radio and there'd be Jason Lewis talking about abortion, so I'd call Jason and I'd go, you mad at Steve? And he'd be like, yeah, that, you know. So you always knew whoever was talking abortion was mad at the program director. Well, thank you all. So, one more question? Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on the first district race?
Ooh, I was thinking about that. Don't you think you're going to get another candidate or two in there? I do. who's in there now? The guy out of, no,
Mike Benson.
Mike out of Rochester.
Rochester, and a fellow from Byron.
Aaron Miller.
Aaron Miller out of Byron.
Mary Blue.
I do think you're gonna get one more in there. No, I don't have a solid feel for that one yet. I really thought you were gonna take it away from Waltz in the last election. I know. It's gonna take some work though.
It's wonderful to talk to them.
I don't care, they're all nice, whatever.
I mean, he will twist it right around, and when he comes back, he's gonna ask you the question.
Yeah, well, that's, I didn't,
Or we got the party line, he follows the party line, it's perfect.
well, you know what, there's your selling point. He voted for Obamacare, you know? He voted for Dodd-Frank. He voted to increase the spending. He voted for the NSA. Never answered for Benghazi, IRS, whatever. I mean, there's your talking points, and you need to keep it simple. And, because we've got to take, I think 2014 is going to be a big win for us. A big win. I think people are waking up. I think they've had it. I think, and pick any topic you want, whether it's Benghazi, the IRS, the NSA, whether it's the debt ceiling, whether it's Obamacare, whether it's even the state and local issues, especially the state issues here in Minnesota. I think 2014, any conservatives are gonna kick some butt.
So we want to particularly thank you for coming down here to speak to us.